This is a broadcast from the Pop Cult Pod.
Hey there, hi there, ho there, and welcome back to the Pop Cult Pod. It's been a while since we've had an episode, but that just means there's a hell of a lot of news to cover, and it means there'll probably be a tiny gap between the next few episodes, because apparently I can either put out everything at once or nothing. Those are my two speeds. Full speed and the speed of a small turtle. Small turtle? I don't know. I think most turtles are small, except for those big fuckers in the Galapagos. Oh, by the way, we've pivoted to to a nature podcast where we talk about turtles. Oh, well, don't expect any turtles here because we're not talking about Entourage. We are talking about the movies, the trailers, and the video game news. Oh, everything is here this week. Things got cancelled. Things got not cancelled, renewed. Things just existed, and apparently that's good. But hey, we should probably find out what it all is about. Life in general. And with that, we go to the new news.
Not just news. Not just new news. But the new.
When I ran about life in general, I have the answer. If you were waiting for that after that bumper, I told you I'd tell you about life, and I finally can. It's shit. There we go. This has been the meaning of life with Tom. I mean, it's shit. If you're a Venture Brothers fan, I should have said. Because the long-running animated series has been unceremoniously cancelled. Okay? A lot of TV cancellations this week. It's all cancer culture gone mad. Cancel culture. Did I say cancer culture? It is a cancerous culture that will cancel the pop culture. I don't know if that was profound or stupid. Both. Good. That sums up the show. Venture Brothers. If you're not aware of what this is, it's like a kind of rip-off of Johnny Quest. I mean, not rip-off, a parody of Johnny Quest that aired on Adult Swim. Now, this has been running a long time. I think it's been on the air for 17 years. Okay? Now, famously, massive gaps between the production of its seasons, but very well adored, very critically acclaimed. I saw the first season. I really liked it. The animation side is gorgeous, but it was just cancelled really out of nowhere. As we said, it seems like there's a lot of changes going on at Warner Bros. Right now. Adult Swim is, of course, under the Time Warner umbrella. Or Comcast? They're part of that whole family, the Warner Media family. And it was just out of nowhere cancelled. First of all, it was said they were returning for an 8th season. And it was going to be last season. This was ages ago. Scripts are apparently being written but not finished. And then this week, or last week, I don't know, it's been a while since I did a show, they cancelled it. And they did the whole, we're looking for ways to continue this, which they've said about every show ever, and I don't know, has it ever been true? And yeah, that's seemingly it. Now, as for what that would be and how it would continue, apparently HBO Max does have an Adult Swim library, but even though they have an Adult Swim library, they don't have the Venture Brothers, so go figure there, I guess. I don't know. It's an expensive show to produce. It's a cult show. But again, is this going to bring anyone new in? Probably not. So I'm guessing this is the end of the line for Venture Brothers, which is a shame if you're a massive fan. It's got a huge kind of cult fan base. But again, the fact that it managed to last as long as it did is kind of surprising. It's 7 seasons over, I think, 15 years it was in production. I mean, I think it was like a pilot aired 17 years ago, and then there was the regular seasons after that. And really, when you have a show that costs a decent chunk of cash and actually doesn't necessarily bring in a massive amount of viewers, and obviously takes ages to make, is it really worth it? And I guess this was just a victim of number crunching. It seems a couple of shows in Adult Swim got cancelled, but we are talking about cancelled TV shows. And there's been a couple of heavy fucking shows cancelled lately. And one of them, I'm going to go completely out of my depth now, as if I'm not out of my depth normally. And we're going to talk about one of the biggest cancellations in recent memory. Because, folks, I think this is what I'm pretty sure I understand the people who listen to the show. And I'm pretty sure we're all big fans of the Kardashians. Keeping up with the Kardashians. Just got a little bit harder to keep up with them. Because now they're not on television. I mean, they're not on their regular show. I'm sure there'll be a million spin-offs. and all that thing. And I'm sure they'll pop up everywhere for the end of time, and there'll be nothing left except pictures of Kim Kardashian on Instagram. Anyway, where do I start with this? Because I'm truly out of my depth here. Well, I'm going to start by reading the statement, which went up on Kim Kardashian's Instagram. I'm already lost. Okay, so let's figure out. It's going to end in 2021 after 20 seasons. So we still have a bit more time to keep up with the Kardashians, I guess, next year is when it ends. And this is, I think this is a statement. It is with heavy hearts that we've made the difficult decision as a family to say goodbye to keeping up with the Kardashians. After what will be 14 years, 20 seasons, hundreds of episodes, and numerous spin-off shows. We are beyond grateful to all who watched us all for these years, through the good times, the bad times, the happiness, the tears, and the many relationships and children. Our last season will air early next year in 2021. Without keeping up with the Kardashians, I wouldn't be where I am today. Yeah, definitely not. The show made us who we are, and I will be forever in debt to everyone who played a role in shaping our careers and changing our lives forever. Wow. I can't think of a cancellation that's affected so many people and then not affected me in any way. So if you're a Kardashians fan, I'm sorry, this is completely, swept by me, which isn't surprising, really. But I'll be honest, the only reason I want to talk about this is because I want to give myself a little quiz. I wanted to see if I can name Kardashians. Which, if you're on the video version, I've got a massive poster behind me. I'm going to try match up here. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. If I can get close to the Kardashians. That sounded weird when I meant it. Okay, so I guess we'll start. It's like a lineup. It's like a lineup of beautiful Armenian women. Help. Okay, I'm going to start with the one right above my head here. This is the oldest one. This is the mother. So this is Kris Jenner. No. Yes, Kris Jenner. This is Kris Jenner, I think. Okay, again, a hack here is that they all, I think... Do they all? Oh no, I'm after confusing myself now. I think they all have K's at the start of their name, or else there's going to be one that doesn't, I'll be sneaky. Right. Now, this is it's a pop culture podcast. I have to do pop culture stuff, right? This is pop culture, even whether you like it or not. And this is all just pop culture by osmosis for me. I've heard bits and pieces about everyone. So I'm trying to piece it together. We have 5 people left in the lineup. There's 3 Kardashians. I think the 2 youngest one are Jenners. Yes, that makes sense. So, above my head, this blonde lady here. Oh, this is now trickier than I realised. Okay. Right, okay. This is why this is tricky. Because I know there's 3 older ones. And the 2 youngest ones are the Jenners. But some of these women, I can't tell what their age is at all. I know there's one of them that gets dissed all the time because she's got a bigger frame. As if she's also not a good looking woman. Okay, let me just try and name them. Okay. This is going to be the whole show. I thought I'd do better than this. Okay, so Kris is the mom. Kris is done. Bye, Kris. Okay, get out of here. We have Khloe. Well, obviously we have Kim. Okay, these are Kardashian women. There's Kim and Khloe. And I think that was a spin-off. I remember seeing ads to that. It was Kim and Khloe take Miami. But there's another one. There's another Kardashian. I'm assuming they all begin with a K. Karen? No. Karen Kardashian. You need a kind of a sort of a sexy name, right? No, I thought of one, but it's a Jenner. I'm pretty positive it's a Jenner. There's Kim and Khloe. Okay, obviously the one in white here is Kim. Okay? You can tell because she's 3 foot away from the rest of them because of her arse. She just have to jut it to the side for the photo opportunity. And they've made it very clear because they just have to have it in the marketing, I guess. Then we have Khloe. Khloe is here, the blonde girl. She has a bigger frame than the rest of them. I know people have given her shit over that before. Oh god, I can't remember the other Kardashian. Kourtney with a K. So now we need to narrow down. It's got to be this one over here, right? Oh, my hand is disappearing. Oh no, on the YouTube version. The person in all black there. I'm not even going to... Oh wait, all 3 of them are in all black. Good job, Tom. This is an even more embarrassing segment now because now I have to try to describe women's fashion. So she's got like a... Is that a halter top? Is that what that's called? It's there's a big skirt and there's a gap between the top and the skirt. It's not a dress. The one not in the dress. That's shortest. No, wait, they're equally all the same size at the end there because they're apparently grown in a lab. That one. That's Kourtney. I nearly forgot what I said. So Kourtney, I'm going to guess that's Kourtney Kardashian. On the YouTube version, I'm going to have to put in like a ding if I'm right or wrong. And we'll see how I did. Then we have the other two must be Kendall's. And no, sorry, they must be Jenner's. One is Kendall and one is Kylie. My knowledge of this is oh no. Oh, my knowledge is getting mixed up again. Kylie Jenner. That's the millionaire one, right? Or billionaire, sorry, Jesus. This first self-made billionaire woman. And she's like, wasn't she in a Pepsi ad? Or is that the other one? This is so hard. It's like a 5-headed beast. That's a horrible way of describing anyone. I'm going to guess the middle one next to Kim. Because that person is a big deal. She's almost like eclipsing the Kardashians, if you can imagine. How dare she? Kylie Jenner? I'm going to say that's Kylie. I know one of them's Kylie and one of them's Kendall. I think Kylie is the one that's a big deal. And that's not... I mean, they're all a big deal, I guess, in this bubble that exists outside of me. So I'm going to say the one next to Kim is Kylie, and they put her next to Kim for deliberate reasons because she's a big deal now. Which, Jesus Christ, I don't know, is this Photoshop, but this woman is like 80% legs in this photo. She's like, oh my God, there must be some weird Photoshop going on here. Because again, it looks like, without knowing these women, if you never saw, like, you know, their dimensions, oh God, I'm really venturing into dangerous territory here. Hey, Venture Brothers, hey. It looks like one of them just has it looks like some of them have just a growth coming out of the side of them. I'm guessing the one at the end there is... Who did I say the middle one was? The middle one is Kylie. One at the end is Kendall. Right, that was an ordeal. I thought that would be faster. I thought I'd do better at that. I've just wasted everyone's time with that, didn't I? Apologies. Hopefully we got something out of that. I hope I'm right. I hope I at least got some of them right. We have to check that out on the YouTube. Hopefully I did okay. But I'll tell you what did okay. This is the big cancellation. I mean, it's not. If we're honest, the big cancellation probably is Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It was like trending on Twitter. But this one would have been a big cancellation. But it's also the weirdest cancellation I've ever heard of. Because just the same way, this is my awkward transition. Get ready for it. The same way that the Kardashians walk the catwalk, the dead walk with the Walking Dead. Terrible. Worse than my attempts to name the Kardashians. I'm so sorry to everyone involved. I mean, I'm the only one involved. I'm sorry to you for wasting your time so far. Walking Dead. This is the strangest cancellation I've ever heard. Because it was kind of like... We're cancelling it, but also there's loads more left, and then it's coming back, everybody. So, this got even weird as well, because I read it, I was like, what a load of nonsense. And then I looked into it more, and I was like, wow, it's actually worse than I thought. So, The Walking Dead is cancelled. Okay, I use that with big fucking quotation, air quotes around it. Right, so it's set to end with a 2-year expanded season 11. That's going to be 24 episodes. Now, in case you weren't keeping up with The Walking Dead, which I'm not anymore, I must admit, they're on season 10. Normally the seasons are 16 episodes. They aired 15 out of the 16, and then the last episode they had issues with production because of COVID. So, the finale of The Walking Dead season 10, or at least they're billing it as the finale, is going to air October 4th. But, then they decided, hey, there's actually going to be 6 more episodes in Walking Dead Season 10. For some reason. I don't know why they just did that out of nowhere. They could have just... I mean, as we'll see, they could have just split things up and done the Season 11 to Season 12. But sure, grand. And said they're ending awkwardly at Season 11. Like, well, the only show I can think that ended after 11 seasons was Frasier? I don't know. That's just my OCD. I'm like, even numbers, please. So they have 6 episodes, again, coming in Season 10 in early 2021. So apparently Season 10 is just going forever. But it gets a bit more confusing than that. So we have Season 10 as 1 episode left. October 4th is when the finale is airing. Then there's going to be 6... I guess it's like... You can't even call it a mid-season finale because there's now been 3 three middles. It's like a 2/3 season finale. I don't know. So that episode is airing October 4th. Then we have 6 episodes to air early 2021. Yes, that's the year. Early 2021. Then there's going to be season 11, which is going to be the final season, but it's going to be 24 episodes, which means it's massive and it's going to run for ages. But hey, you know how it's like, The Walking Dead's cancelled. Yeah, that's right, it's cancelled. Okay, so that's it for The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead has run its course. Except when the season 10 original finale airs on October 4th, then there's going to be a new series starting called The Walking Dead World Beyond, which is a spin-off set 10 years into the apocalypse, and there's going to be 2 seasons of that. So The Walking Dead is cancelled, but The Walking Dead World Beyond has 2 seasons, and then that will be cancelled. And then the week after that airs, we have the return of Fear the Walking Dead, which is coming in for its 6th season. So again, The Walking Dead totally cancelled. It's done. Okay, no more Walking Dead except for The Walking Dead World Beyond, the really long season 11, and Fear the Walking Dead. Which has another season, and could, it depends on how it gets renewed. But regardless, Walking Dead cancelled, everybody. It's done. Okay? After all that, Walking Dead is cancelled, right? Except then we have a new series of The Walking Dead called Tales of the Walking Dead, or Tales from the Walking Dead. I shouldn't get the title wrong. It could be very confusing otherwise, of course. How would you keep track of all this stuff if I call it Tales of the Walking Dead instead of Tales from the Walking Dead? Tales from the Walking Dead is a new series, an anthology series following the backstories of new and existing characters, which means that you're going to learn these characters, you're going to learn about these characters as they get introduced, or have they already been introduced? But again, doesn't matter because The Walking Dead is cancelled, everybody. It's cancelled, and then we have The Walking Dead World Beyond is going to air for 2 seasons. Fear the Walking Dead is going to air for 6 seasons. We have season 11, which is airing for another 24 episodes. And then we have Tales from the Walking Dead. But aside from that, it's cancelled, okay? It's done. And then there's going to be the Rick Grimes movies, which there could be as many as 3 of them, okay? But aside from that, Walking Dead cancelled. It's done. But, thankfully, even though The Walking Dead is cancelled with 5 shows on the air or set to air or in production, they're going to spin off Carol and Daryl. Just in case. Because if you're going to cancel your show, you should spin off successful characters, right? So, you have those 5 shows, but then it's cancelled. And then we have the spin off of Carol and Daryl. Yeah. In 2023. Jeez, yeah, because you wouldn't want to clutter up your network with Walking Dead. 2023, give it a bit of a break. They're going to be spun off. What is this? What is going on with the world? So, I'm joking. But they were basically like, The Walking Dead is cancelled. Except it's going to be airing this year. And it's going to be airing in 2021. And then it's going to air 2022. And then, realistically, right? This is not a cancellation. Because the spin-off of Carol and Daryl, those are your 2 main original characters. I think they're the only original characters left on the show. And they're the big main characters most of the time, right? And they're the actors you've paid the most to. So basically they're like, let's take the 2 popular characters from that show and then spin it off. And honestly, if it's spun off in 2023, they've already said that season 10 is going to finish in 2021. They have 24 episodes to air beyond that. So that gets us to 2022. And honestly, probably almost 2023. Which means that basically The Walking Dead in its original series isn't going anywhere. It's just, they're like, hey, we're just gonna start again. It's like when DC were like, hey, New 52, issue 1, right? Except it's not like that, because that would be a reboot. It's not really. They're just like, change the numbers. It's like marking over the expiration date of a show and then just like, yeah, change that number. It's fucking Apu at the Quickie Mart, basically. So they're spinning off 2 successful characters, keeping that timeline going, I guess. We have 4 spin-offs in the works. Or maybe we have a lot. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. Oh, God. AMC. Have no fears. We have stories for years. It's weird. I don't watch The Walking Dead anymore. A lot of people I know have quit. But they're just keep on going. Nothing stops this train. It's so odd. Because I know even a couple of years ago, they were like, we got 20 years of The Walking Dead. And we got it all planned out. And it's like, Jesus, dude. Already getting tiring. Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead. Okay, fair enough. Now it's it's Walking Dead World Beyond, which is 10 years after the apocalypse, which at this stage, How much time has passed from the apocalypse to this point with The Walking Dead? It must be a load of time. They take so many fucking time jumps every year. And then we have the Rick Grimes movies. And then we have Tales from The Walking Dead. And then it's all going to start all over again with Carl and Daryl, which it's like... Who even knows? Like, do you know what this is? They gave a lot of money to Melissa McBride and Norman Reedus, Carol and Daryl on the show. And they were like, hey, what the hell do we do now that people are stopped watching the show? We have to do something. And this is them, breaking glass gates of emergency. Give them their own show. It's a new show. You watch it. Check it out if you haven't been watching The Walking Dead. But then again, you have the same continuity. So it's like, who... I don't know. Anyway, maybe we can turn our head to some possibly and hopefully more successful comic book TV shows. And by successful, I mean, not to say The Walking Dead hasn't been successful, but obviously probably has run its course. But hopefully that won't be the case for the new and upcoming Marvel Disney Plus shows, because we got a lot of news about these shows out of nowhere. Marvel really kind of came out of the woodwork again in the last few weeks. And the first one of that was one of the Disney Plus shows, which was Miss Marvel. Okay? Now, Miss Marvel. Let me just say this. She is, in my opinion, one of the few modern creations that has really landed. Like, and I'm not saying that some of the other new characters aren't good or haven't done well, but Miss Marvel as a character has just done really well. Her comics have won awards. She's in the new Avengers game, which is apparently, but people really like this character. She's if you ask me, she is very much a modern day Spider-Man to people. And again, they're very obvious with the allusions to that, but it's like a teenager trying to get together, and you have the whole kind of Muslim living in America thing as well, which is really good. I love that character. She's genuinely, I know people kind of people always shit over Marvel's kind of diversity initiative, but genuinely read the first few issues of her series. Really, really, really good. And naturally, because of that, she was going to get her own Disney Plus show. And we got our first bit of details about that. Firstly, we got the people basically involved in it, the creative side of it. So, Adil El Arbi, Bill Al-Fallah, Sharmeen Obad-Chinoy, and Mira Menon. I probably screwed up the name, so apologies for that. So, first two guys there, Adil El Arbi and Bill Al-Fallah, they are the two guys who gave us Bad Boys for Life, which, to be honest, I actually thought was pretty decent. And I say that as someone who didn't care about the other Bad Boys movies, but it was a surprise. They had a certain style to them. It was kind of like a Michael Bay light thing. I'd be interested to see what they can do with this. But those guys are Muslim, so again, we have... What you will notice about this creative team is we got a strong creative Muslim voice, which is exactly what this character needs, because I think that's something that sets her apart from some of the other characters we have. We don't have any, kind of Muslim superheroes, and it's something that is a massive part of our character without it being like the only thing. But I really think that they have some strong creative people here. So, aside from the Bad Boys directors, who are probably the most recognizable names to a lot of people, but again, that's not to take away from the next few people, because they are really, really talented people. Sharmeen Obad-Chinoy is an Oscar-winning director for her short films, which are really like short documentaries, and it's often about the issues facing women in Pakistan. Now, if you don't know, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, is a Pakistani American, so she's really done these documentaries on what Pakistani women are going through. So you can really bring in that culture into Miss Marvel through her, because she knows the reality of what women go through in Pakistan. I think she has a documentary on honor killings, and I think she has one about a woman who had acid thrown at her in Pakistan, which I really wanted. I saw these and I was like, I really want to check these out. These sound fascinating. And again, Oscar winner. Just a really good move by Marvel, because it's not a big name, but creatively, these are the people you need to make this show work. If the show works and it's good, people are going to come watch it regardless. Okay, we have Mira Menon. She's directed episodes of The Walking Dead, Punisher. This is an Indian woman, Indian American. She also directed the feature Farrah Goes Bang, which is about a Muslim girl going on a road trip to lose her virginity. So again, has dealt with a kind of a young coming of age story about a Muslim woman. So very interesting choices, because again, I think they're really going for one aspect of this, which is the character's culture, and that to me shows that they know what they're doing with the character, which is no surprise really, because look, anyone can do a superhero origin story. I don't mean that as a negative to anyone who's done one. I just mean like that side of the superhero characters is easy to get, but the culture of this character is as big a part, and If they get that right, I think it's going to be a big success. Now, also not the only character or Disney Plus series we got news on, because we officially got casting news for one of the Disney Plus series, and that is the role of She-Hulk, which has officially landed its lead in Tatiana Maslany. If you don't know Tatiana, she is the star of Orphan Black. That's what she's best known for. She's currently in Perry Mason on HBO, which I've heard is quite good. But Orphan Black is what she's known for. And for that role, she won an Emmy. She was nominated for a Golden Globe. Really strong sci-fi show about a load of clones. That just didn't feel like a match up. I was like, it's a really strong show. It's about a load of clones. This had a massive cult following. Was a big success. It ran for 5 seasons. Apparently it kind of went downhill a bit, but one thing that was excellent is that, of course, she was playing all these characters, and a lot of people say to her credit, like, it wasn't always obvious that, it was always her, and it was very impressive how many kind of roles she was able to inhabit. So that's really, really good to hear. I think this is an excellent choice. There was a lot of rumours about Alison Brie. I actually think Tatiana Maslany, as much as I love Alison Brie, I think Tatiana could be a better call, perhaps. So now I guess we just sit around and try to figure out what happens next with She-Hulk. Is she going to be CGI the whole time? Is it going to be a mixture? I don't know. Generally speaking, this is a very interesting character. It's kind of a meta character that's aware they're in a comic book. Are they going to do anything like that? That's kind of game breaking, and now that's sort of Deadpool's thing. But again, we don't know what's going on with Deadpool at the MCU. We also got involvement of the person who has joined the show as an executive producer, which is a big get. Kat Coiro is going to executive produce the show, and she's going to direct at least the pilot, presumably and possibly episodes beyond that. She's like a veteran of the TV industry. She's directed Brooklyn Nine-Nine, It's Always Sunny, Modern Family, just to name a few of her jobs. And she also has a film coming out next year with J-Lo and Owen Wilson. Wow. Oh wow, it's like wow. I'm in a movie with J-Lo. Wow. Which I just thought, like, I saw this movie. I think it's called I don't know. It's some generic. It's like Marry Me, or it is called Marry Me. I think. I was like, it's some generic title like Marry Me, and I actually think it is called Marry Me. Like, I was just like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, is this a romantic comedy with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson as the male lead? I was like, that is, what a weird couple. J-Lo and Owen Wilson. Normally, J-Lo is like stunning for her age, so let's get like some really young hot guy, which is the rarity in that Hollywood. Normally it's like old guy, young woman. Now it's like older woman, younger guy. And apparently it's Owen Wilson, which I'm just picturing in my head. I'm like, that's I don't know if I want to see them kiss. I don't know why. It just seems weird. I don't know why. There's no offense to Owen Wilson, no offense to J-Lo. Just looks weird in my head. That I'm apparently picturing two of them kissing, and I regret my life up to this point. Anyway, do you know what? I probably looked at the cast as wrong. She's probably kissing someone else. But regardless, I can't believe she's kissing someone else. What's wrong with Owen Wilson, huh? What's wrong with Owen Wilson? Kiss him, J-Lo. Kiss him. Okay. Jonathan Majors has also joined the MCU. But this time he's joining the cinematic universe. And he's joining Ant-Man 3 as apparently, allegedly, rumoured, big grain of salt, thank you and tip your waitresses, Kang the Conqueror. You're fired. Kang the Conqueror. Well, ladies and gentlemen, massive casting. I'm joking around, but this is one of the biggest characters you could cast in the MCU right now, is Kang the Conqueror. The big question we all have is, what the hell does this mean? Does it mean this character is going to be a one and done in Ant-Man 3? Hopefully not. Does this mean this is the setup of our next big Avengers villain? Very possible. It's a massive character. This causes so many questions. Okay, first of all, I just want to say this. Jonathan Majors, he's currently in Lovecraft Country. Have not watched it yet. I've heard it's very, very good, and I've heard he's excellent. He's, in my opinion, just an amazing actor. I think he's like, even before this, I was like, this guy just needs the right role, and he is going to be a big deal. He is an excellent actor. I saw Last Black Man in San Francisco, and he's like the co-lead, I believe. I think the other actor wrote the screenplay, and he was very good as well. But Jonathan Majors stole the show. Oh my god, he's an excellent actor. So to get a man of his caliber who is just kind of breaking through into mainstream now is a fantastic get for Marvel, and hopefully this is a character we're going to see a lot of. So, if you don't know Kang the Conqueror, I'll give you a very abridged history, because again, there's a couple of different iterations and versions, and there's a lot. This is a big character, like I said. He's a time traveler. Okay? Specifically, he traveled back from the future. Now, a lot of people are speculating and theorizing that this is a character that's almost going to act like kind of a time police. You know, I'm picturing like Rick and Morty, you know, those ball guys. That basically are like, hey, the Avengers mess with time travel. Now I'm going to mess with them for messing with time travel, or something like that. But it's interesting because what is really of note here, okay, is he's clashed with he's clashed with everyone. He's clashed with Avengers, okay? But he's also primarily associated with the Fantastic Four. So much so that his name is Nathaniel Richards, and he considers himself to be a descendant of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. This is actually a character that did not come to Disney until the Fox merger. And it's weird, I have not seen a lot of people saying that. And to be honest, I'm scratching my head here. I could be wrong, because it might be a minor character, but this might be the first major character to come from that merger into the MCU. Now again, by the time Ant-Man actually comes out, that could have changed, but I don't know. Big character to introduce anyway, that came from that. That'll tell you, if nothing else, how tight he is to Fantastic Four, because that's why Fox had the rights, because he was introduced in the comics of Fantastic Four. So the question is there going to be a Fantastic Four connection here? And Peyton Reed has been very open about talking about wanting to do a Fantastic Four for a long time. In fact, he tried to do it at Fox at one point as well. So does that mean there's going to be some sort of fantastic connection to Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, or sorry, Ant-Man 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp 2, I don't know. The third Ant-Man film with Wasp, because I don't want to leave her the title and be like, you sexist. Like, a lot of people have been talking about this for a long time and saying this is going to be a big movie. It's going to take people by surprise. I always was under the assumption that it was going to be Young Avengers related, because of course Scott Lang's daughter Cassie grows up to be a Young Avenger, okay, and now of course now she has been aged up, so there's a lot of potential for this to be set up for Young Avengers. And again, Kang has been a big deal in Young Avengers stories as well. There's a lot of pieces in place here that they're setting up the Young Avengers for, that makes me kind of go, maybe this is where we're going. And we'll talk about another one in a minute when we talk about WandaVision, because one of Wanda and the Vision's sons, is also in Young Avengers. And there's a few other characters we could easily weave in there. So I wonder if that's where we're going. And you could even put Kamala Khan on that team as well. So it's interesting. I think this is a villain that, if they do it wrong, there will be uproar. And by wrong, I mean, I think people are going to be disappointed if you don't give this character enough time, reverence, and appearances in the MCU. Now again, it could be a very tiny role here. It could be the same way Thanos is in Guardians of the Galaxy. We don't know. But regardless, that is what we got with Marvel casting. A lot of it out of nowhere. A lot of Marvel stuff kind of came out of the woodwork this week, surprisingly. And I do want to just say, kind of, give a passing mention, because unfortunately, since we last recorded, of course, this is old news now, unfortunately, but Chadwick Boseman passed away, which is just incredibly upsetting and shocking still, that an actor of his caliber and a man of his age and seemingly someone so full of life could just pass away like that without anyone knowing. The fact that basically his whole time in the spotlight for massive chunks at the height of his career, he was dealing with this horrible illness. And look, I can't add anything to it. As I said, it's happened a while ago now, but it's obviously just shocking. Obviously, pay our respects and rest in peace, rest in power, Wakanda forever, and all of that as well. I know a lot of people are kind of like, oh, well, what did Marvel do? Look, I just think that's in bad taste in general. Like, look, we all know the potential options Marvel have in front of them. I'll report on them when it becomes official. Other than that, I don't want to speculate. It just seems like it's in bad taste, okay? Anyway, moving on from that, we have... How do you segue out of that, man? I don't... Look, there's no way to do this except to do it. PS5. Okay? Oh, that was a really awkward one. I mean, I do awkward transitions all the time, but that would have been, like, dreadful. PlayStation 5. We had our big press conference and we got our prices and everything else. It was sort of weird because there was like a slow sort of race between Sony and Microsoft about like saying when it was coming out and how much it was going to cost. It was kind of like, are you going to say how much it costs? Well, we're not going to say how much it costs. Well, if you don't say how much it costs, we're not going to say how much it costs. It was like two awkward teenagers flirting in school with notes. You know, it was like, oh, well, what do you got? What are you going to price it? I don't know. What are you going to price it? What do you got going on? What do you got? You know. Anyway, that was my impression of two awkward teenagers. Thank you. So the PS5 has been dated, first of all. It's coming out November 12th in the US, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Mexico, and Australasia, New Zealand and Australia, I guess. With the rest of the world getting it the following week on November 19th. They kind of showed off a lot of games here. Obviously, the big thing here was the price. And it kind of depends on the version you go for. So there's two different versions. And this is the same for the Xbox as well, except it's much easier named here. We have the digital edition and the PlayStation 5. Whereas Xbox is like the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. Wait, is that it? Xbox Series... Yeah, I think that's it. The name is nonsense. So, the digital edition, as you can guess, and I'll move myself out of the way of the video once we can get a look at both consoles. It's one without disk drive. Long speculated about. Now confirmed, obviously. For $100 less, you can get the PlayStation 5 without a disk drive, which means you are of course buying all your titles digitally through the PlayStation Store. This has always been the way it was going to go. I don't know how happy like video game shops are going to be to sell this, but you know, kind of unpresentable, I guess. Unpreventable, not unpresentable. I mean, it is a bit unpresentable. Well, actually, to be honest, the one with the disk drive is unpresentable. It looks a bit ugly with the disk drive, but anyway. It's this is another march towards the kind of death of physical media. But personally, I mean, I think it's worth spending the extra money just so you can pick up used games and stuff. Like that's never going to exist with your digital store. You know, like I could be a patient gamer. I can wait, and then I'll save the money pretty quickly. So that's the digital edition for $100 extra. So we have $399 or €399, which, by the way, you're ripping off Europeans again. This always happens. They're just like, hey, just put it the same price as the dollars. Oh, what? Those aren't parity? There's not $1 for €1? No, it's not. You're ripping us off like 50, 60 quid probably. Nice one, Sony. £360 and 39,980 yen. Bring us to the disc version. The disc version is $100 more expensive. Same with Euro. Again, this is purely based on the disc drive. Again, I think it's probably better to get the disc one, but I know there's some people that are just happy and are just going to use this and say, hey, I buy most of my games digitally anyway. 100 quid isn't much of a big deal to me. I'm mostly a PC gamer, etc., etc. For me, I think it's like if you buy used games, which I often do, I just think it's worth it. I just think it's worth it having a disc drive anyway, and also because I want to use the Blu-ray player on it, and nothing else. So that's the PS5, the actual console, but that wasn't just what this was about. It was about some games as well, and a few other tidbits. Now, first of all, we should compare the price to the Xbox. My understanding is that they're basically the same price for the physical edition, but the digital version is more expensive than the Microsoft one. I think it's about 50 more expensive, $50 or whatever, more expensive. This is also apparently the biggest console in recent history. It's massive from the sound of it. Game-wise, available at launch, we have Demon's Soul, which is a HD remaster. Spider-Man Miles Morales, which something you should notice. And I don't know was this a reaction to this, but they basically went through all the games, and most of them are also available on PS4 and last generation consoles. So I don't know if that means that they're not expecting people to buy this straight away, or maybe they're just reading the writing on the wall and saying, look, I didn't think there was much of a difference between them graphically, so, you know, we'll see. But regardless, big worry was that we wouldn't be able to play Spider-Man Miles Morales on PS4. You can, so that's good news. Judging by some of the rumored price of these games as well, that I'm going to guess that's going to be a game that a lot of people are going to buy because it will be cheaper because it's sort of an expansion more than a full game. On that note as well, they're doing a remastered version of the PS5 that you apparently can't carry your saves over, which is a bit of a disaster. That seems like something you should have sorted, Sony. But regardless, so those are some games available at launch. Those are, I think they're exclusive. We also have Cyberpunk 2077, if it ever actually comes out. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, which it's like... So what you've given us is an expansion pack, a game that you can play on any console, basically, and 2 HD remasters. Okay. Not a massively impressive lineup so far. They also talked about the PlayStation Plus collection, which is going to be available at launch, which essentially is Microsoft Game Pass, with some of the Sony's greatest hits. So it's a big advantage. You're basically going to play a lot of PS4 games through that, apparently, which is a big deal as well. We also got the backwards compatibility kind of question sorted. It's just able to play PS4 games. It says that they gave this very nebulous statement, which I hate. They said it's backwards compatible with 99%, which is like, okay, so it's not fully backwards compatible, and chances are you'll just pop in your game and it won't work for whatever reason. And I guess that's why you have to get PlayStation Plus collection or whatever, which is a shame. I don't know. Speaking of games, it does look like the games are going to be around $70, I think, which is a lot. I've heard $80 as well. I don't know if that's true. It's a lot of money, man. $80 is what I heard at one other source say. Yeah, I'm not rushing to buy a PS5 or an Xbox or anything like that. But regardless, there is some other titles they mentioned that might get people off the fence. One of them is Final Fantasy 16. It was announced. There was no date. Didn't even watch the trailer. I'm not a big Final Fantasy fan, but just know it's there if you'd like to see it. Hogwarts Legacy is one a lot of people got excited about, which is, boy, what bad timing. Because we all love Harry Potter right now, right? We're all ready to dive back into that world. Yeah, coming in 2021. This was leaked years ago, finally confirmed. It's a new story that's not written by J.K. Rowling. They made that very clear. They're like, hey, she's not involved. She's not involved. She wrote the books, so she's not involved. Okay, please buy the game. So it's Hogwarts Legacy. It's set in the 1800s, which I find so strange, right? Because I saw someone say, like, yeah, because of that now it's not going to cross over with the regular one. See, it's totally different. But also, it's like all of Harry Potter could be set in the 1800s once you get to Hogwarts, to be honest. Like, once you get to Hogwarts, it's basically the 1800s anyway. It's not like someone's, like, whipping out any new technology. It's just they all have wands. They dress like it's the 1800s most of the time. I guess that just means people won't be wearing jeans. That's it. So, yeah, that is what it is. I guess, I don't know if that means there's any story elements that could kind of gloss, like, or kind of connect. Original story, so assuming there's going to be a villain and all that kind of stuff to make it interesting. It's a Harry Potter RPG. The trailer didn't do much for me. I like the idea. Some people are very excited for it. I do wonder about it personally. It looks like it could, okay, I mean, Harry Potter games have been very hit or miss. I think if you even go back and play the ones that people thought were good, probably wouldn't hold up. Hopefully it works. Fingers crossed it works. There's a lot of excitement for it, so I could totally see it being a success regardless. So that's coming out in 2021. They showed off Call of Duty and Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil Village or whatever as well, along with Oddworld Soulstorm and Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, which is interesting. But what's more interesting, first of all, they finished their conference with God of War. A sequel is coming out called God of War Ragnarok, coming out next year, 2021. That'll be a system seller. And hopefully, of all the games, I don't think the graphics impress me much. I think something like that is the sort of game, I think, and the sort of studio you could trust to get the most out of the PS5 and show us why this is a true next-gen console. And I was going to end on that, but what was also interesting is that they said they showed off Deathloop, which is a game from, let me get the right publisher here, but it's not going to matter in a sec. Deathloop, I believe, comes from Bethesda. And, yeah, it does come from Bethesda. Arcane Studios, who gave us Dishonored. But what is more interesting is that there is an exclusivity window from the PS5. Along with Ghostwire Tokyo, I believe it was. Because both of these are, their parent company is Bethesda. But then we got the news this week. One of the biggest acquisitions in recent memory. And I'm not going to go into this too much because it's still very early. Like, when I wrote up the notes to this, when I was getting ready to record this, it kind of just broke. But that is that Microsoft have purchased ZeniMax Media for $7.5 billion. ZeniMax own Bethesda. They own Arcane Studios, as we mentioned. They own id Software. So right off the bat, obviously, Fallout. Okay? Elder Scrolls games. Doom. Quake. Wolfenstein. Dishonored. This is a game changer. No pun intended. Microsoft have always got a lot of shit for their exclusive content that they don't necessarily have first party titles. They have Halo and they have Gears of War and Fable sometimes. Whoop-de-doo. This is something that will hopefully change that. It's a massive acquisition. It's still early days. I heard some people speaking about monopoly laws. I don't think it will do that. But the other thing to question is that some of these titles are going to need to be sold elsewhere, including the PlayStation. Now, they have said they're going to honour those agreements with PlayStation, which is good, of them at least. But this is like the biggest game acquisition I can think of. That's, like, think of that, right? This is $500 million short of what Disney paid for Star Wars and Marvel combined. Insane. Really changes the game. I really think it could, in theory at least, be a thing that's going to put Microsoft right back in there when it comes to talking about first party titles. But hey, we're talking about the PlayStation, and I bet you any money that someone was watching the PlayStation and being like, very nice. They were like, hey, I saw that panel and it was a great success. And then they were like, oh, how much? And then they went and they said, oh, very expensive. I'll need to ask my wife. Remember Borat? Remember annoying Borat quotes? They're back. Ugh. Just to be clear, I like Borat, but god damn, was I sick of that character because of everyone quoting it. And it's all about to happen again. Because we got a really weird story. Because it was one of those stories where it's like, here's everything you need to know. And then you're like, right, you didn't tell me anything I need to know, really. But apparently, and this comes from Collider, they have the exclusive, they have the scoop, the goss. Borat 2 has been already filmed and screened to select people. Which, look, whoa. I mean, Sacha Baron Cohen always operates in secrecy. Obviously, we had Who is America, was it 2 years ago now? That was done very secretly. And he has started appearing more lately. We did see that thing where he infiltrated a right-wing rally and started singing about the coronavirus, you know? And it was in everyone's head that, hey, probably for Who Was America Season 2, which was never officially cancelled or confirmed. That makes sense. But then, shortly after that, someone captured footage of him seemingly driving around in a truck dressed as Borat. Now, I'm not going to lie, in my head when I saw that, I was like, oh, maybe he could appear in Who Is America Season 2. That would be a really good kind of ratings bump for that show. Good talking point. But now the big question is, was the right-wing rally thing for Who Is America or was it for Borat? Because, and this is where all the details get sketchy again, everything is basically a mystery about this thing. We don't know who is involved. We don't even know who is making it. There's speculation that it's being made by a streaming service with big pockets. That's what it says, which sounds very... Doesn't that sound very like detective-y? Like, yeah, I hear it's a streaming service with big pockets. And they got stems that go for days. Like, okay, so it's Netflix or maybe Amazon, right? Probably, I guess. The big question, though, aside from that, is, like, when is it coming out? And, like, if you have to remember, like, as far as the studios that are the streaming service that could be putting it out, this was put out by Fox, who's owned, of course, now by Disney. But I can't imagine Disney are, like, raring to go for a controversial R-rated film right now. That, again, let's be honest, is going to end up in a lot of lawsuits. So you're going to need someone with deep pockets, which would be Disney. But again, don't think this fits Disney. So who knows where this is going or what the story is with it. A lot of people have assumed it's going to come out in time for the election, which means November. So might not have long to wait, actually. some people have said, considering cinemas are closed, he's going to go to streaming anyway. Which I think that would make it feel like such a smaller event. But again, now is not the time to open a big movie, as we learned from Tenet. There's also rumors that the movie is called Borat Great Success. And the apparent plot, and I say apparent because this has not been confirmed, in fact it's been disputed by other places, is that it was going to involve, like, Borat is apparently now famous, so he has to go undercover. So there would basically be Sacha Baron Cohen playing Borat, playing another character. And that's why I said maybe this right-wing rally he infiltrated and sang the Wuhan song, maybe he was playing Borat playing another character. We don't know, which is just crazy when you think about it. Again, hasn't been really made clear. Seemingly it's confirmed, because a lot of people weighed in after this, so there is apparently another Borat coming. We don't know when it's coming, we don't know any official details. More details as they come and they're confirmed, hopefully. Only other rumour I found interesting about this is that apparently Mike Pence and Rudy Giuliani are in the film. And already, of course, you have that. Anytime the Sacha Baron Cohen project, they're like, oh, they got someone big and it's going to be the end of their career. I mean, they said that before. They said it again. Apparently, it's going to address coronavirus. It's going to address Jeffrey Epstein's connection to Trump. We don't know. But it is fascinating. It came out of nowhere. Totally shocking. But still, Borat is coming back, apparently. There you go. Yakshimash! Get ready for Borat quotes, because they're just as annoying now as they were back in the day. But I wonder, is there a chance that Borat could be delayed? Because I'll tell you what, on this show, my job has gotten so much harder the last while, because everything is delayed. In fact, anytime I mention to do a podcast about movie news, they're like, what do you even talk about now? Do you just like talk about, delays? Yes, I do. In fact, I talk about them so much that I'm starting a new podcast, and I'm starting it right now, right here. And that podcast is called, Hey, did you say delay? Have a little patience. Hello, I'm Tom, and welcome to Hey, did you say delay? Well, you can call me Wonder Man, because I'm wondering, man, where the hell is Wonder Woman? It was meant to come out ages ago. Well, guess what? Did you say delay? Because Wonder Woman 84 has been delayed once again. Unfortunately, Patty Jenkins' latest film has been pushed once again. Delayed 2 months this time. Was originally going to open October. Now it's opening Christmas Day. So you can go have your turkey, open your presents, and see Gal Gadot kick some ass, kick some cheetah ass. Back in the 80s, apparently. If this movie ever comes out. All of this seems to be a response to Tenet, which of course came out to decent international numbers, but horrendous domestic numbers. So bad that basically they tried to hide how bad the numbers were, and now refuse to tell anyone how bad it actually was. Which, way to go. Way to instill some confidence. But, look. I'm sorry, I just heard a noise. That was... Did you hear it? Something has been delayed, and that is connected. The Phil Lord Chris Miller animated movie has also been delayed. Hey, did you say delay? Somebody did. And now this has been delayed too. That's not surprising. It could potentially, if it was a big animated film, go on to streaming, but with something like this, not a lot of people know it. It's been yanked from the schedule with no confirmed date. Apparently it's coming this year, but who really knows? It's also a Sony movie, and Sony said we're not going to release any film during the pandemic. I'm so glad I started this new podcast because I want to get through these quickly because it goes on forever. But, do you know what's weird? Did you say his name? Or did you just say delay? Because Candyman has also been delayed. I don't believe it. Candyman has been delayed once again. Was pushed all over the calendar, and now it has been pushed once more. Originally it was set to come out in October, perfect for that Halloween feel. But now, it's, been moved to no specific date. It's just been removed from the schedule, which is perfect for that Halloween feel, I guess. Or maybe it's just perfect for that existential dread we're all feeling, because, the world sucks, and it's getting bad, and cases are going up again, and maybe... it goes without saying, cinemas are probably not going to recover or go anywhere good. Maybe life in general just isn't going to go back to normal for a while. That's a bit of a downer. But you know what's also be a downer? If you were a widow. But that's even more of a downer, is if you're Black Widow. Because apparently, rumor is that you're going to be delayed too, honey. Black Widow, apparently going to be delayed. Not confirmed yet by those sneaky sneaks at Disney. Apparently it's going to be pushed. Apparently it's going to be pushed very soon. The question is, where does it go? Does this mean it's going to go to Disney Plus? Probably not. But maybe. Going to be moved from November, which means it didn't have any Marvel movies in the year 2020. Oh, what a horrendous year it is. But that's not the only film Disney are rumored to delay, because apparently everyone is terrified after how Tenet did. Won't somebody please check your soul and find meaning, find answers? How can we get through this? Oh, Soul has also apparently going to have to be delayed. That was a terrible transition. And that's something that works on both my podcasts, whether it's, hey, did you say delay? Or the Pop Call Pod. We always have terrible transitions, because apparently Soul is going to be delayed as well. And I did a very bad job of explaining that when I first started this story. But I'm trying to be more positive and upbeat, because the world sucks. And that's what this podcast is about. This podcast, not the regular podcast. This specific podcast is trying to take all that negativity and rush through it and not be depressed. And it's really tough. Soul is delayed. Apparently, could be coming to Disney Plus. Not confirmed. I don't know. Who knows? We don't know. None of us know. What is life? I don't know. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. But anyway, that was the first episode of my new podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And hopefully, when we come back, it'll be a little bit less depressing. Which for now, that is our first episode of Hey, did you say delay? I'll see you next time.
Have a little patience.
I'm so confused about everything that just happened. Why was that a separate podcast? Why was my manners and my delivery completely different? Why was I more positive there? Why? What? Oh, it's not even worth questioning, is it? I don't know if that can come back. Maybe it'll outgrow this podcast. Maybe that'll be a successful podcast someday. Hopefully not, because that means that all the movies are disappearing. And that means there's no future for cinema. And this whole thing is just a total pointless waste of time. I mean, more so than it is already. But there must be some future for cinema, because they're still throwing that trash out there. And of course, I'm talking about trailer trash.
This is the theme for trailer
This is the theme for trailer trash. Get in the bin.
Get in the bin.
And boy, was there a lot of trash at the moment. And I'm the freaking garbage man. First trailer we got that I have to talk about is Dune. Or June. Dune. I'm going to say Dune. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation or if I sound stupid for saying Dune, but that's what I'm calling it. This is a big sci-fi blockbuster based on the classic sci-fi novel by Frank Herbert, I believe is his name. Yeah, Frank Herbert. And it's being directed by Denis Villeneuve, who gave us, of course, the likes of Arrival, who gave us Sicario, who gave us Blade Runner 2049. There we go. In other words, classic big sci-fi films that, generally speaking, don't do very well at the box office. And that's sort of a bit of a shame, because this is also likely not to do very good. Now, I will say, everyone was speculating for the longest time that Wonder Woman was going to be delayed and take this one's June's date. Now, apparently that's not the case, seemingly, which is odd. June is still there, which means it'll be coming out around the same time as Wonder Woman. I don't think it's going to hold that date, for one. Apparently it's really having to rush to get it all finished and together. I was really excited for this movie. I like June. I like Denis Villeneuve's work. Everything I've seen of him, he's an excellent director. Makes some of the best films going right now. I'm not going to lie. This trailer didn't do much for me, man. It's a weird one. I've never seen a film that more people think is going to bomb in their life. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they're wrong, but a lot of people are saying this doesn't stand a chance. It's a big budget. It's got an amazing cast. But it's also that thing where it kind of comes off unmarketable. And I don't think that's ever been more evident than in the trailer for this, because it looks like there's not that many big selling points to get people into cinemas. It's just like, hey, isn't this cool? This is a big sci-fi world, isn't it? There's not anything here that makes it stand out. There's the big sandworm at the end, which is good, but I don't think it's enough to get people into cinemas. You know, that would have been a big deal before. Don't think it's that big a deal now. The other big complaints I have about this trailer, and overall, I am still excited for the movie. I did like the trailer. What is up with the color grading? It's so bland looking. Everything just looks regular tan grey. And that's not very good. That just makes it bland. Like, look, all of that stuff is almost blending into one behind me at the moment. I hope it's good. It's not the whole book, it's the first part. Whether or not we get the second part, I don't know. There's meant to be a TV series. I don't think they've done any work on that. I kind of feel like this one could underperform. And I hope it doesn't, because I want it to be good, but the trailer didn't fully sell me. Another massive trailer we got, and for a film that also we all expected to get delayed, that seemingly isn't going to be delayed, or at least they're being very arrogant about it and still advertising, still saying coming to cinemas, still coming in November, is No Time to Die. You've been delayed for months, Bond. You've had plenty of time to die. But this film will not die, because it's apparently coming in November. This was a really good trailer. I like the dynamic action, like you ever seen here, where Bond is on a wall, and he kind of just feels very like, I don't know, it feels like a real reaction he would have in an action scene, where he's kind of like just seeing things around him and using them. I just really enjoyed that. Now, the other thing I found interesting about this trailer is that, especially the Daniel Craig Daniel Craig Bonds. Hey, you want to know what a Daniel Craig bomb is? Cowboys and aliens. Boom. Got him. Fuck you, Daniel Craig. For no particular reason, you talented, beautiful son of a bitch. It's been overall relatively small in scale, those films, and I know that's kind of a weird thing to say about these Bond films, but it doesn't feel like there's been a massive kind of world-ending consequences in them. But this one feels very much to be an exception to that. It feels big. It sounds like this is like the end of the world unless Bond can stop Safin, which is our Rami Malek villain. The other problem is that, like, and again, this trailer was very different compared to what we've gotten. There was a lot of action in it. It definitely looks like a big action blockbuster, more so than his other Bond films. It has a problem where, like, some of the best bits we've seen already, because, like, remember now, this film had basically its final marketing push. This was delayed, like, with just a couple of weeks away from its release. And now they're having to do the same thing again. In fact, they brought out posters, I think it was just this week, that are basically the exact same poses. They just changed the background. So I feel bad for the marketing team. And I also feel like they're kind of worried about giving too much away, because apparently there's some big twists and spoilers in this film that they're not fully showing us yet. Now, I did hear the international trailer, which I have not seen, is not playing behind me, does give away one of those spoilers or confirm a spoiler. I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot more CGI in this trailer as well. Or this movie, it seems, which is quite odd. But again, it does seem like a big, massive scale, and if this is, and it is, realistically, Daniel Craig's last go as Bond, it feels like he's going out with a big scale, big budget, kind of classic action Bond adventure. I think I'm excited for the movie. I'm not entirely excited by the trailer. I thought it was fine. But again, who knows? The big thing I wanted to talk about is, and there's a theory about this, and I don't think this has been confirmed by the trailers. I honestly don't know. But I find it a very interesting idea, and when I say I don't know, that is a play on words. No, it's a pun. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of speculation from a lot of people that really this Safin character is this universe, or this timeline, or this installment, this iteration of Bond's Dr. No, which is fascinating. I really like that idea. I've seen all the Bonds now. I'm reviewing them for the YouTube channel eventually. And now, Dr. No is obviously the first Bond film we got. Dr. No, though, is such a meh villain. He's like nuclear and bombs and that kind of thing. And he's got a robotic hand, which Safin seemingly doesn't have. And that's kind of it. So, we already have our iteration of Blofeld. So I think having a Dr. No would be very interesting. And seemingly this Blofeld does know a lot about Dr. No. And then, of course, the title is No Time to Die. So is he going, no, time to die? I don't know. That seems very like Schwarzenegger action, but yeah, that's just a theory that I've heard put out there. I like the theory. I wonder if it's true, which is a shame, because I was one of those people that had heard and speculated that Christoph Waltz was playing Blofeld, and I was like, don't do that. You're going to go too close to the sun here, and trying to ape the classic Bonds is not going to work. And it didn't really, but anyway, decent trailer. I didn't love it. But big one. Is this going to come out in November? It seems like they're really pushing for it. Maybe they just can't hold on to this anymore. Maybe they need to make some money, even if it's not a lot of money. But it's definitely not going to make any the amount of money it would make under normal circumstances, quite obviously. I haven't gone into Tenet's box office, but I think it's been done to death at this point. Not a good time to release a movie, I'll put it that way. No Time to Die, is that going to come out? Who knows? If it does come out, is it going to do any well? A lot of people are saying this could get worse in the winter, and if it does, the Hose Returns could seemingly be worse. But thankfully, not everything is coming to cinemas, because some things are coming to Disney Plus, because we got 2 trailers for Disney Plus stuff. Biggest one we got was, well, actually not the biggest one. One of the biggest ones was The Mandalorian. But we're not going to look at that, because apparently I queued it up wrong and said we're going to watch WandaVision. Sorry, YouTube. WandaVision. This is the biggest thing on Disney. In fact, the numbers for this are just in, and they are huge. Apparently one of the biggest trailers are for anything, or anything Disney related, Disney Plus related, ever. What the hell is this? I don't know. It's weird. I love it. I think what's happening is a lot of people are saying, I like this, I don't know what it is, and they're watching it a lot, and that's probably helping. Seems to, of course, be ripping off a lot of classic TV, black and white, seemingly. A lot of kind of imagery from Bewitched. You know, we have, like, in that, it would be like, I think the character's name was Susan in Bewitched. Yeah, you know, I'm just awkwardly, if you're watching YouTube, playing with my nose. And that would be her doing a spell. I can't do that. No. I just, ugh. You know what? Don't watch the YouTube version. It's weird. I just made some weird faces trying to wiggle my nose. But she kind of does like a thing with her hair, and it looks like it does a wish, so it's classically aping off that. But it's not the only kind of riff we get to classic television, obviously. We saw in the teaser that we had like throwbacks to things like that look like Roseanne, you know, and all these kind of classic TV sitcoms. And it's definitely doing a good job of aping those. Get a first look as well at a lot of things in this. First of all, Catherine Hahn as presumably Agatha Harkness. Don't get a lot of her in this trailer. She seemingly, though, is one of the only other characters that is travelling through these different iterations of TV. If she is Agatha Harkness, generally that's how Scarlet Witch gets her powers, I think. But obviously she has her powers already, so I don't know. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. I don't think she necessarily gets her powers from Agatha Harkness, but this is a very, very powerful old witch. And seemingly she's, you know, got some menace there, because she kind of is in the 60s version. You're like, oh, which is also Deborah Jo Rupp from that 70s show was there, which was a nice surprise. We also get a quick flash of her in an 80s iteration, and we see her in a more modern setting where Vision goes up to her and she goes, "You're dead," basically. She asks, "Am I dead?" And he goes, "No. Why would you be?" And he goes, "Because you were." Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. It seems like it's a bit like Legion, because it's weird and psychedelic. So this seemingly is a world that Wanda can change as well. She's kind of changing the furniture and the stuff like that. So seemingly she's affecting this world. There's a hint to House of M on the wine. House of M, of course, is when she basically lost her shit and warped reality at a point that there was no mutants. So basically could be a lot of iterations of that going on. And we see shots of them wearing their classic costumes for Halloween, which was cute. We see 2 babies, which of course they become much more significant in the comics if they go that route. Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know what to say because I don't fully know what's going on. This was one of my Homer Simpson watches Twin Peaks moments where I'm like, excellent, excellent. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. So hopefully it'll become clearer when it gets released. I've heard end of November, around Thanksgiving. Now again, we look at The Mandalorian in a sec, which is coming out at the end of October. So they will be quite close to each other, but apparently it is going to be out by the end of the year, if nothing else. So November, December, we'll get a look at this. They did also confirm with this that Falcon and the Winter Soldier has been delayed. Was originally going to come out before this in August, but then it got delayed. Now WandaVision is coming first, which is weird because I think they wanted, of course, Falcon and Winter Soldier was pretty easy sell. It's like these guys are teaming up and it's a cool action buddy show. Whereas, of course, this is weird psychedelic and might throw some people off. I don't know. But it looks pretty decent. I'm really looking forward to it. It's one of the shows I'm looking forward to more, to be honest. But regardless, that was the trailer for WandaVision. I loved it. It's done great numbers. Check it out for yourself. It's really strange. I'm looking forward to seeing the show, though, because that's a character I love, though I love those characters, and I love Elizabeth Olsen. And I will watch anything with her in it. And then we come to the one I was meant to talk about. It'd be so funny if I just played WandaVision again. Okay, which is The Mandalorian. Let's see if this works this time. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Hey, this is the problem with having a video podcast now. I have to actually... You can see me fuck up. The Mandalorian trailer. We all, of course, watched the first season and loved it. This trailer I found a little bit underwhelming. Not to say it's a bad trailer. It's a good trailer. I enjoyed it. And I'm excited. And I'll say why I found it underwhelming. And I think, honestly, it's a good thing. I found it a little bit underwhelming because it felt like there wasn't much there. It just felt like a lot of teases. Like, oh, you know, there was before they took on Jedis, and it's teasing a lot about what's coming, and we don't really see a lot. But I think this is one of those series, or at least this season, is going to be full of allusions to Star Wars Rebels and those kind of extended universe characters. And that is one of the big things. Behind me at the moment we have Sasha Banks, who is apparently playing Sabine Wren in in this new season. Don't know a lot about how many episodes that's for. Seemingly it's one of the few characters that gets a big look in. So presumably prominently featured. And of course, if Sabine Wren is in it, then she's normally followed by, what's his name again? Captain Rex. We don't get a look at Rosario Dawson. Who's playing, what's her name, Ashok. I'm going to fuck up the pronunciation of this. I haven't watched Rebels, I haven't watched Clone Wars, so apologies, but her character is like Ahsoka something, Asuka Dawson, what is it called? Ashoka, isn't it? Ashoka Tano, there we go. Ashoka Tano, we don't get a look at her. Naturally, that's what we're all expecting. I'm guessing they're holding back on that. We also don't know how much she's going to be in it. So, good trailer. Only reason I didn't like it was because it didn't kind of give much, and I think that's a good thing for the show in general. But overall, pretty decent trailer, it must be said. Not bad by any means. I mostly was surprised how much Sasha Banks was in it, because I'm a wrestling fan, so it was like, worlds are colliding. But yeah, good trailer, coming out at the end of October. So really not even that long to wait, which is the kind of thing where, like, if they put out another trailer and be like, here, let's show you everything in it, I probably wouldn't even watch it. Good trailer. Glad The Mandalorian is coming back. Disney Plus have put in a strong foot forward here. We have the Mandalorian and WandaVision that are apparently both so good that I couldn't play them in the right order, but that's okay because you got to see both of them. With that, this is a long show, so we're not going to have time to do the one that I watch, which is a shame because I have to finish off those Harry Potter movies, and I have to finish off the Dark Knight trilogy, and that takes a lot of time, but I will get there eventually. I also have to try and get the Summer Blockbuster Showdown finished before we get to October, because I have a lot of plans for our features in October. So this is kind of the third part of the Blockbuster Showdown, which is, I think, the years 2010 to 2014. Yes. Okay. And this definitely wasn't pre-recorded. I'm just going to go change my shirt, and then I'll come back. I'll do it while this jingle is playing. Okay? So, thank you for checking it out. Stick around to the end. We'll do a bit of IMDb trivia. I don't know why I'm saying this. This isn't me finishing the show. This is me just going to go change my shirt. I better go quickly, okay? See you in the next one. Welcome back to the Summer Blockbuster Showdown, where this week we are going from 2010 to 2014. Now, 2010 is a pretty massive year. We have massive original film like Inception. We have the end of the Shrek franchise as we know it with Shrek 4, Shrek the Final Chapter. If you're watching the video, it says Shrek 3D. It's not the third Shrek film, it's the fourth Shrek film. I don't know why they're confusing you. It's not a film worth getting confused over. Twilight Saga, Clips, Toy Story 3, and Iron Man 2. These are the films in consideration for the 2010 group for the Summer Blockbuster Showdown. But which one will go through and which one will have to fight to survive? Very exciting stuff. Anyway, when it comes to box office, top film in this I was going to say bunch group, and then I just went bruh. It sounds like I'm nervous. I don't want to talk about movies. Blah. Sound like Jimmy Stewart. Box office for Toy Story 3 was over $1 billion. Massive. Inception, $825 million. Shrek Forever After, $752 million. Smaller than a lot of Shrek films. Twilight Saga Eclipse, $623 million. And Iron Man 2 actually should be above Twilight with $698 million. Right. So, based on that, Toy Story was the number one film. Twilight was the number 5 film. After that, Inception 2, Shrek 4 is number 3, and Iron Man 2 is number 4, points-wise. For when it comes to budget, the most expensive film is Toy Story 3. You have to consider animated films blockbusters when it costs you more than Inception, more than Iron Man 2. It cost $200 million for Toy Story 3. Crazy. Inception was $160 million. Shrek Forever After, $135 million. Twilight Saga Eclipse, again, the Twilight movies are generally quite cheap, $68 million, and Iron Man 2 at $170 million. So based on that, Toy Story 3 gets the number 1. Iron Man 2 gets appropriate enough at 2. Inception gets a 3. Shrek 4 gets a 4. And Twilight Saga Eclipse gets a 5 as far as the points go. So at the moment, Toy Story 3 is holding court with the biggest box office of the year and the biggest cost. When it comes to originality, Toy Story 3 is a second sequel, but it is a second sequel on an original concept, which is helping it. Inception, wholly original, the only one in this group, that gets the number 1 on originality. Shrek Forever After, third sequel, based on a book, bottom of the list for me, number 5. Twilight Saga Eclipse, second sequel, based on a book. Iron Man 2 is a sequel on a comic. Iron Man also shows up in The Incredible Hulk, though, which is going to hurt it. I'm going to give the originality edge to... I'm actually going to I'm going to change what I have here. I'm going to give the originality edge to Twilight Saga Eclipse just because I feel like Iron Man made a pretty big impact and he was in the Hulk. Nebulous reasoning, I would say. That could be controversial, but there we go. Number 3 is going to Twilight, number 4 is going to Iron Man, and number 5 is going to Shrek. When it comes to cultural impact and critical acclaim, this is going to be what sets the men from the boys here. Toy Story was a massive deal. 5 Oscar nominations, including the very rare. It's only happened 3 times ever, I think. It was an animated film nominated for Best Picture. It happened with Beauty and the Beast, and with Up, which got through. Probably based on that is one of the big reasons. And in this case, we had Toy Story 3. It won 2 Oscars. It's a film that's remembered for its emotional depth and for really feeling like it capped off the Toy Story trilogy. Now, again, this did feel like a big ending at the time. It was very sad. A lot of people were kind of emotional because it was a film they'd grown up with. You could possibly argue that was ruined by Toy Story 4, but again, I think Toy Story 4 is so recent and it was so good that it has not soured the cultural impact Toy Story 3 had. Very strong, but maybe eclipsed by Inception. We're not talking about Twilight Saga Eclipse. It was a pun, but I don't know if that really worked. Inception won 4 Oscars and 4 other nominations, so 8 nominations in total, and it won 4 of them. That's great. Rotten Tomatoes, 87 critic score, 91 audience score. Anytime the audience score is higher than the critic score, it's normally a good sign for cultural impact, especially if it's actually a good movie and not just has a devoted fan base. Proved Nolan was worthy of the hype as an auteur director. It wasn't just the Batman property he was bringing people in. He could make an original film, the blockbuster film that drew people in and was a success. He really kind of established him as kind of an auteur director who could make intellectual blockbusters. So that's a big deal. Establishing Nolan as a kind of a filmmaker that for this generation is also a massive cultural impact, undoubtedly. The concept has kind of been spoofed to death. It's been memed. The word "ception" it kind of came into lexicon for a little while for something within something else, and it's still recognized. So for a cultural impact, I mean, it's on a 10th anniversary release now and everyone's talking about it again. Have to give the cultural impact to Inception. Inception's number 1. Toy Story 2 is number 2. The cultural impact of the other ones, Shrek 4, no, not really. Everyone kind of forgot about it. After Shrek 3, the magic was gone. People barely remember this one or that there was a Shrek 4. Eclipse is unfortunate because it is quite big, but it's nowhere near as big as New Moon. It's kind of that unfortunate middle ground between the kind of cultural, massive milestone that New Moon was and getting to those finale films. So because of that, it's so awkward when it's in between. Bit of a lesser impact as a result. Iron Man 2, cultural impact. I mean, it's best known for kind of being a cautionary tale for Marvel not to rush. It's considered by many people to be the worst MCU. But then again, it did a lot of the heavy lifting for Avengers. And because of that, it possibly has a big cultural impact, but a lot of people saw the Avengers, I'd say, without seeing this, and I don't think it made a big deal. So that lessens its cultural impact as well. Rotten Tomatoes scores are in the 70s, both critics and audiences. Yeah, I'm going to give the cultural impact edge here between Twilight and Iron Man. These two are button heads for some reason. Number 3 is going to be Iron Man 2. Number 4 is going to be Twilight, and Shrek getting 5th for cultural impact. No one really remembers it. When it comes to franchise, this is what's interesting because this is really going to damage A film that was otherwise doing very, very well, and that is Inception. Inception has not had a sequel. Whether or not Tenet has some connection, we don't know as of this recording. I haven't seen it. So because of that, there's never been a sequel, never any follow-up. It's at the bottom because other film has had some degree of follow-through. As a result, Inception is at the bottom here, getting a 5. That's really going to hurt its score. Toy Story 3 got a sequel. Toy Story 4, obviously. Video game, lots of merchandise. That's pretty good for a franchise score. Let's see how the rest of them do before I can make a judgment. Shrek 4 gets a spin-off. Again, arguably that spin-off would have happened anyway because, I think Puss in Boots came out the year after, so probably more to do with the rest of the franchise than this. It damaged the franchise. We haven't got another Shrek film since. Because of that, that's really hurting its franchise potential. I'm going to give that a 4, just above Inception, based on the fact that Inception has not had a sequel. There was a 2-part finale for Twilight that kind of seemed like it was going to happen anyway, a foregone conclusion. So because of that, doesn't get a lot of points for building it. Iron Man 2. I mean, you don't get to the Avengers without this film. It introduces Black Widow, who has her own film, who's a pivotal player going forward. I'm giving that a franchise score. Number 1 to Iron Man 2. Number 2 to Toy Story. Number 3 to Twilight. Number 4 to Shrek. And Inception gets an odd 5. And based on the scores of that means that number 1 going through in first place here is Toy Story 3. So that does not have to fight with anyone. Shockingly, that means Inception, such a great film, is going to have to fight if it wants a chance at that blockbuster crown. So first place in 2010 is going to Toy Story 3. Second place is going to Inception. Bit of a shocker, but can Inception fight its way back? I actually thought Inception was one of the favourites here to kind of take this whole thing based on its originality and its success, if nothing else. But I don't know, we'll have to see. Big year here. We have the end of the Harry Potter franchise, the reboot and kind of failure of Pirates of the Caribbean 4. We have a supposed end for the Transformers franchise before that gets rebooted, a sequel to Kung Fu Panda, and really, if you ask me, the kind of rebirth of the Mission Impossible franchise by Brad Bird with Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Those are the 5 films in our 2011 group. But how do they fare? Box office, no surprise, is that Harry Potter's finale is the highest grossing film, and that made $1.3 billion. A lot of billion-dollar films here. I also should note, this year, 2011, had more sequels than any year in cinema previously, so originality is going to be a tough one to figure out here. Harry Potter, 130, as I said, 1.3 billion. I was trying to call it the whole figure and gave up. 1.3 billion. Dark of the Moon, 1.1 billion. Pirates of the Caribbean, 1.04 billion. Mission Impossible, 694, big gap there. And Kung Fu Panda, 665. So naturally, Harry Potter Deathly Hallows is going to get the number 1 for box office, and the rest of them go in order. Budget-wise, we have an interesting one here. So Deathly Hallows is a tough budget to predict because it's 250 million, but that's split between that and part 1, apparently. And I think the budget was possibly higher. 195 million for Transformers Dark of the Moon. The most expensive film ever, apparently. Pirates of the Caribbean 4. So that's going to get the number 1 easily. Surprisingly, that could really help it get through, which is shocking. Mission Impossible 4, 145 million budget, and Kung Fu Panda, one of the very expensive ones from DreamWorks, surprisingly, is 150 million. So, because of that, the cost, we have number 1 is going to Pirates of the Caribbean. Number 2 is going to Dark of the Moon. Because of Harry Potter being 250 million split with part 1, I have to just split that to budget in 2 and give it 125 million, which is a shame because it's really going to hurt Harry's chances here. Because of that, number 3 is going to go to Kung Fu Panda with 150 million, which slightly edges Mission Impossible 4 is 145 million, which gets a 4. And Harry Potter, since it's 125 million, is getting a number 5. That's a real shock because there doesn't seem to be any figures for just part 2. So because of that, the cost of Harry Potter is going to really weigh it down. I think actually Harry might struggle to get through here, which is a bit of a shock. Cultural impact. The end of Harry Potter was a massive event. Such a long franchise had finally kind of come to an end. The Snape twist has kind of had a cultural impact. People are still going always and all that. The impact of it is often kind of as a whole and kind of coming to the end of the franchise. But you can't take that away because it was such a big franchise, and this being kind of the end, for lack of a better term, was a big deal. 3 Oscar nominations, Critics like slightly more notches, but that's not a big deal. Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Some trumpet this is kind of Transformers kind of being back to back to being good. I mean, debatable. It kind of remembered for its massive battle sequences and Megan Fox being replaced, so that's not necessarily a good thing. What else do we have? 3 Oscar nominations for it. It felt like this was kind of a finale of the franchise for a while, but it obviously wasn't. Rotten Tomatoes scores 35, audience scores 55, so it is quite a significant jump there between them. When we get to Pirates of the Caribbean, aside from the massive budget, this is kind of seen as a squandered opportunity to restore the franchise past glory, which really doesn't help. It's seen as a lesser film in the series, and certainly a lesser film than the trilogy that preceded it. Because of that, not a great cultural impact for Pirates. Mission Impossible 4, this is kind of the one where they laid the groundwork for the new era of Mission Impossible movies, if you ask me. They showed Brad Bird was capable of filming live-action big budget films, as well as, animated films that he'd excelled at. This is just a step in the right direction that kind of felt like a good jumping in point if you missed the Mission Impossible movies till now. This sets up a lot of the characters that would return in subsequent films. I think this is a very strong cultural impact here. There is a big gap between what critics thought and what audiences thought, with 94 critics and audience giving it 76. So there you go. Kung Fu Panda probably did even better than the previous film, but if it's unless it's a Pixar film or something incredibly stylistic or emotional, animated films kind of rarely have a massive cultural impact. Generally speaking, there are obviously exceptions. And that's the case for Kung Fu Panda 2. This is just kind of seen as another film in the Kung Fu Panda franchise, even though it's a better film, if you ask me. 1 Oscar nomination, but again, that's not going to help it. So, cultural impact, I'm going to have to give it to Harry. The end of the Harry Potter franchise is a big deal, without a doubt. Cultural impact, aside from that, going to give it to Mission Impossible 4, just because that did really affect a lot of the films going forward. Number 3, I'm giving to Transformers. It was a massive thing. It felt like an end, and the franchise picks up a bit more steam than Pirates, which this film kind of damages the franchise, if you ask me. Number 3 for cultural impact is going to Transformers. Number 4 for Pirates. Number 5 Kung Fu Panda just didn't really do a thing. Franchise potential. This is the thing. This is why sequels are dangerous here. Okay. So Harry's a tough one, because we get spin-off films, but they're kind of spin-off films of books. And I don't know if that was a big factor from these films succeeding. We'll come back to it. Okay, Transformers. We get 2 more Transformers films, and we get a spin-off. They kind of have to reboot it, so possibly not. Again, whether or not you can attribute that to this, I don't know, because I don't think they're connected too much. We have Pirates of the Caribbean. Eventually we get a sequel. Maybe another one is on the way, or it's being rebooted. We don't entirely know. This damaged the franchise, undoubtedly. Mission Impossible, we get 2 more Mission Impossible films, and we have 2 more in production, so undoubtedly, and this is the one that kind of drove it. This is getting a number 1 franchise, if you ask me. Number 4 is going to Kung Fu Panda. It's had a film and a TV series, so it kind of comes down to me arranging the ones. I have to find number 2. I have to find the one that the worst as well. So, okay, I'm going to give it. It kind of comes down to what you consider Harry Potter's franchise to be. Like, the Wizarding World ones feel so separate to it. But if you include the spin-off from Transformers, you kind of have to include the spin-offs of those. So, okay. I'm going to give Pirates of the Caribbean the 5 for franchise. It damaged the franchise. We only got 1 after, and it was significantly lesser as a result. I'm going to give 3 to Harry Potter, because we do eventually get a spin-off. If the last film sucked, I'm guessing that would have really, hurt these films. Number 2 is going to go to the Transformers films. Whether or not they had a big cultural impact or really changed things, very debatable. But then again, they did keep the franchise going. So, based on that, our scores. Oh no! Oh God, what have I done? I want to use I'm thinking of using my save here, but I don't feel passionate about the film. But I just feel like it kind of does deserve a place. Right, so first place is gone to Transformers: Dark of the Moon. I'm not happy about that at all. Oh, okay, wait a sec here now. So actually it's okay. We have a tie for second place. So one of these films is going to have to fight its way out. We have Harry Potter and we have Mission Impossible. Ghost Protocol. Right. I think you have to put, I think Harry Potter is a shock that it's not first anyway. But it is just come down to the cost of it being split and the originality. That's where it suffers. I'm going to put Harry Potter through in second. I'm not happy about leaving Mission Impossible behind, but I think those other entries are going to have a better chance coming back. So, although I think only one more of them is in consideration. Okay, yeah, Transformers Ark of the Moon is first. I'm really annoyed about that. Second place I'm going to give to Deathly Hallows Part 2 because it was such a major kind of culmination and moment, but Mission Impossible just about gets left out. I might come back and save it depending on if I find a better film to have my save for. So, ooh, that's a painful one, but there you go. 2011 was a tough year, man. The year 2012 is absolutely massive. As you can see, it's kind of balanced here between big animated films and superhero films. For superhero films, this is a huge year. We have basically the first big payoff of Marvel's cinematic universe. We have the reboot of Spider-Man and the end of Christopher Nolan's films. Whereas we also have Ice Age, Continental Drift, and Madagascar 3 making their presence known. And that is the 5 films in consideration for the 2012 group. So without further ado, let's have a look. The highest grossing film of the year is The Avengers, undoubtedly. This is the first year to have $4 billion films. And we also have, obviously being a defining year for superhero films, The Avengers makes $1.5 billion. That's at number 1. Dark Knight Rises, $1.08 billion. Ice Age 4, $877 million. Amazing Spider-Man, $757 million. And Madagascar 3, $746 million. So in that order, that's the points they're getting. Avengers number 1, Madagascar number 5. When it comes to the cost, the budget, Avengers is $220 million. Dark Knight Rises, $250 million. Ice Age 4, again, a very cheap, $95 million. And Amazing Spider-Man, $230 million. Apparently, Spider-Man cost more than the Avengers. I remember at the time, everyone was saying, this Spider-Man's going to be stripped down. It's going to be simple and cheaper. Right. $145 million then for Madagascar. So, because of that, most expensive film was Dark Knight Rises. Number 2 was Amazing Spider-Man. Avengers was number 3. Number 4 was Madagascar, and number 5 was Ice Age. Then we come to the originality. This one's going to get confusing. Okay. Okay. We have Avengers, which is, I guess, the first Avengers film. You could call it the 5th thing, but I think a lot of people use it as a jumping off point, so I think that debatable. We have it's also based on a comic though, so okay, that will hurt its originality. Dark Knight Rises is a second sequel to a Batman movie. It's a comic. Again, we all know Batman a bit. Ice Age 4 is a third sequel. Amazing Spider-Man is a reboot and it's based on a comic. Reboots get very low scores around here when it comes to originality because they're basically given the same thing over and over again, and that's certainly the case with Spider-Man. Madagascar 3 is the second sequel. So, because of that, surprisingly, for originality, I'm going to give it to Madagascar 3. It's probably more original. It's only its second sequel. You could possibly look at The Avengers as a 5th Marvel movie, potentially. Or you could look at some of the other ones as, further down the road. The reboot of Spider-Man is hurting it. And basically, it comes down to Dark Knight Rises and a Madagascar there. They're both on their second sequel. But we've had so many Batman movies, and Batman is based on a comic. So based on that, I'm giving it to Madagascar. Originality after that is going to go to Avengers. Number 2 is going to be that because it is the first Avengers film. Number 3, I'm going to give it to the Dark Knight Rises. Just about gets it over Ice Age. Dark Knight gets number 3 for originality. Number 4 going to Ice Age. Number 5 going to Spider-Man. Again, it's a reboot. It's very similar to what we got before. That was the main complaint a lot of people had. So there you go. The acclaim and cultural impact. The Avengers, it ushered in a new era where everyone was trying to launch their own cinematic universe. It's kind of seeing the Avengers on screen kind of made it defining blockbuster of its generation. It was such a big deal. Everyone was talking about it when it felt like not necessarily people weren't necessarily talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe before this, except more niche circles. This kind of brought to the mainstream and was a massive success. Everyone has been hyping and chasing after the next Avengers franchise as a result. Everyone's been trying to make their own cinematic universe. Everyone is looking at those Avengers books and thinking, how do I make that happen? Without a doubt, number 1 in the cultural impact, both in the low 90s from critics and audiences. I mean, multiple box office records were set, 1 Oscar nomination. I don't even need to justify this. That's cultural impact score is getting number 1. Dark Knight Rises, many kind of just missed the final Nolan entry, or they kind of picked it apart for plot holes. It has some cultural relevancy for the character of Bane, and his voice certainly is well remembered, you know. The impact is also tied with that shooting, which is unfortunate. That's not a good thing, obviously, but it is something that is remembered. So because of that, the film is remembered, which is a really unfortunate albatross around its neck. I don't know if that's a saying. It's kind of regarded as the lesser of the Dark Knight trilogy, but despite its kind of, you know, many strengths, the darkest of Nolan films was a little bit overshadowed by people embracing a lighter tone like the Avengers. So a big cultural impact, but again, it is overshadowed by the Avengers. So number 1 is going to Avengers, number 2 is going to Dark Knight Rises. I mean, Ice Age 4, interchangeable as an Ice Age film. No one really remembers them at this point. Just call it Ice Age 4, even though it's got a title, I'll put it that way. Madagascar 3, yeah, regarded as one of the better Madagascar films. A lot of these anime films are seen as another film in the franchise. Spider-Man, the reception to it was kind of higher at this time than it is now, I think. A lot of people see it as a misfire. Andrew Garfield, though, that's his introduction to Spider-Man, so that's a big cultural impact. Yeah, I mean, it was generally seen as Sony not being able to handle the IP properly, especially compared to the Raimi films. It kind of felt like a retread. But I think just based on the animated films being forgotten, it gets a 3 in cultural impact and acclaim. 4 goes to Madagascar 3 because it's less along in its life cycle. 5 goes to Ice Age. So, franchise, I mean, the Avengers obviously inspired a lot of stuff. That gets number 1. Dark Knight Rises never had a sequel. Basically, you could possibly say, have a very weary argument that it helped the DC universe, but probably not. So, because of that, number 5. Madagascar, there has been TV series, and there has apparently discussions of a sequel. So number 2 I'm going to give that to number 2 because, you know, there was no massive Madagascar films, but there's been a very successful TV series that kind of continues. There's been a spin-off, The Penguins of Madagascar. So yeah, franchise score, number 1 is going to Avengers, number 2 is going to Madagascar. Number 3, there is a sequel to Spider-Man, and eventually it leads to kind of the MCU deal. So number 3, I guess. Number 4 is going to Ice Age because there is eventually a sequel. There's no sequel to Nolan's Batman, so that's number 5. Right. I get the feeling it's pretty clear what's going to go first here. And it would be a shock if it didn't. Because this is like one of the defining blockbuster of a generation. And yeah, no surprise that Avengers is topping that. Probably one of the lowest scores we've got so far in the whole competition. That's a score of 8. That's first place. Second place is going to be The Dark Knight Rises. Once again, even in this competition, The Dark Knight Rises is overshadowed by The Avengers, just like the year it was released. We do get some big films this year. Of course, we have the birth of the DCEU, even if it's not really as well indicated that it is a massive universe. But Man of Steel launches, Monsters University, Iron Man 3, Fast and Furious 6, and Despicable Me 2. Those are the films in our group for 2013. A very strange group, to be honest, but still, let's see how we get on. So, Iron Man 3 is the highest grossing film out of all of them, 1.2 billion. It gets that kind of Avengers rub there that really helps it out. Despicable Me 2 makes nearly $1 billion, 970 million. Fast 6, 788 million. Monsters University, 743 million. And Man of Steel, down the pack, 668 million. Again, looking at that now, you're like, wow, that's not a great performance from Man of Steel, but there you go. That's the way they're scored, that's the order they're in, that's the points they get. Cost, the budget is the highest for Man of Steel, 225 million, so that's getting number 1. Iron Man 3 and Monsters University are tied here. I'll come back to that in a sec. Fast 6 will be 4th with 160 million, and finally, Despicable Me is getting a number 5 at just 76 million, surprisingly. Great return on investment on these Despicable Me films. Apparently, I'd heard that this is one of their most profitable films of all time, and I'd believe it. So, when it comes to a tie, I kind of look at what film looks the most expensive. And I think with animation, sometimes it's hard to tell what expensive animation looks like. So because of that, I'm going to give it to Iron Man 3 for cost. Number 2 is going to Iron Man. Number 3 is going to Monster University. Originality, a lot of sequels again. Iron Man 3 is the second sequel and it's based on the comic. Despicable Me is a sequel, but it's a sequel of an original idea. Fast 6 is his 5th sequel. That doesn't stand a chance. Monster University is a prequel, prequel, sequel, whatever you want to call it. Man of Steel, based on a comic book, but is a relaunch of Superman. So, based on that criteria, Man of Steel might actually do okay. Originality, I'm going to give number 1 to Despicable Me, because it's a sequel of an original idea. Number 2, I'm going to give to Monsters University, because it's a sequel of an original idea. Number 3 is going to Man of Steel, because it's a comic book, but it's the first kind of film we've had of Superman in a while. I mean, Fast is like its 5th sequel, so that's at the very bottom. And then, of course, we have Iron Man in at number 4. Cultural impact and critical acclaim. Okay, remember that this can be negative as well. I'm going to say that right ahead because I'm looking at the films and reading the rating on the wall. When it comes to Iron Man 3, the cultural impact has mostly been the decision of the Mandarin reveal. That really pissed people off. It's kind of been blown out of proportion, possibly. If nothing else, that's kind of a complicated cultural legacy that it leaves. But then, when you look at the audience and critical score on Rotten Tomatoes, they're about even. So, and generally it's positive. It says 79 and 78. So, that's kind of its impact. That's its defining thing. The botched Mandarin reveal, if you want to put it that way. But still, it is okay based on that. It has a cultural impact because of that. Go through some of the other ones. Fast 6, it's not really impactful. It doesn't reinvent the franchise like Fast 5 did. It doesn't kind of reach the heights of Fast 7, which follows it. It's probably only remembered really for the credit scene that introduces Jason Statham as Deckard Shaw. It has a good audience score, but again, it's kind of not as remembered as a lot of the other Fast films. Monsters University has no real cultural impact. It's seen as an indication to some that Pixar are more interested in sequelizing their films now than making a great film, and that kind of feels like the case. Man of Steel has is like Iron Man 3, has a massive cultural impact that mostly stems from a controversial decision. In this case, Superman killing Zod. That was a major talking point, which, is always going to be. It's still divisive now. But it serves as an introduction to DCU and the new Superman, but it also feels mostly self-contained, which hurts it a bit. Like, it's not as blatantly an introduction to a universe as some other films are, but it's a complicated legacy and a divisive film, although opinion on it has kind of softened, in my opinion, in recent times. Critics gave it a 56, audience gave it a 75, so again, there is certainly a cultural impact with this film. I don't know if it's necessarily a good one, but it's certainly remembered and still discussed to this day. When we come to Despicable Me 2, I left this till the end because, surprisingly, this has a massive cultural impact. For one reason, really. First of all, I'll get to that in a sec, but it's nominated for 2 Oscars. It's a big success. It massively improves upon the first film's box office. The big cultural impact this has is Happy by Pharrell. It's on the soundtrack to this. It was the most successful song of the year. It won a Grammy. That was like everywhere. You couldn't avoid it. And it was made for this film. So because of that, Despicable Me 2 must be pretty happy with its cultural impact because it is number 1 for cultural impact just based on that song. It's insane, but there you go. Man of Steel, I'm going to give the edge there. People are still talking about discuss to number 2. Put that above Iron Man 3 as a result. Number 4, I'm going to give it to Fast 6 just based on the fact that it introduces Deckard Shaw, and that does eventually become a big deal. Monsters University, not really a big impact, so number 5. When we get into these other ones, it's also surprising. When it comes to franchise, this is kind of the end of the Iron Man franchise. It doesn't factor in as much to the rest of the MCU, really. So from that regard, it's relatively weak. In fact, that was one of the big complaints people had at the time because we'd just come off Avengers. Despicable Me, on the other hand, this kind of brought the series to new heights. As I said, this was a massive improvement on the box office of the last film. And because of that, we have another sequel, and we eventually get a spin-off with another spin-off coming. This brought Despicable Me to new heights, and because of that, it's going to score very well on the franchise score. Fast 6, it was a bit of a kind of a modest entry compared to the other ones. It does have the introduction of Deckard Shaw, who would be a big factor in the coming films, and of course, will get his own spin-off, so because of that, its franchise score will do quite well. Monsters University, it's getting a TV series, whatever. Not a big one. Superman never gets a sequel. That's the problem with Man of Steel. We get Batman v Superman, which is kind of, questionably a sequel. It also underperformed by most regards. It has a divisive one to build your kind of franchise on. Superman is kind of, never really met financial expectations in any of his entries in DCU, and I think it's because this film never really helped that. It never really built a strong foundation for a franchise for Man of Steel, and as a result, that's going to hurt its franchise score. So number 1, surprisingly, for franchise is going to be Despicable Me, because it does lead to a successful sequel and spin-offs. Number 2 is going to go to Fast, because it does introduce a character who does get a spin-off that's successful and subsequent entries that are very successful as well. Number 3 is going to Man of Steel again, just because it does have some ramifications going forward, even though it might have damaged the franchise. Iron Man 3 doesn't really factor in. Don't get another Iron Man or anything like that. We're only getting a TV series from Monsters University, so that's not a big thing there. Right, so when we put these scores together, I'm not sure how this one's going to go at all. Okay, we have Despicable Me, and we have a tie in second. So number 1 is Despicable Me. Okay? Despicable Me 2 is going through. We have a tie between Man of Steel and Iron Man 3. Damn, that's a tough one. This is the problem. I basically now have to make a Sophie's choice between 2 films that a lot of people hate in both camps. I'm going to put through Man of Steel. Okay, let me explain my logic. Iron Man 3 was a big blockbuster, but I don't think it's even really discussed as much anymore, whereas I think Man of Steel still is. Man of Steel certainly felt very, very big. It felt kind of bigger to me than Iron Man 3. That might be because I was in America when Man of Steel came out, so I was seeing a lot of that marketing stuff, whereas I was in Ireland for Iron Man 3. I don't know, maybe this is personal preference. But I do think that it also has a higher budget, so it did really feel like a blockbuster thing. I'm going to give it to Man of Steel. And I already saved Iron Man for the first time, so I'm sorry, Iron Man 3. If you can't save yourself, I'm not going to save you. So Man of Steel is going to have a chance to fight to be a blockbuster contender here. Bit of an upset there. I don't think anyone's going to be happy with that, but there you go. That's just going to start a Marvel DC fight, but there you go. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the sequel to the Planet of the Apes reboot. Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, finally those bunch of a-holes get out onto the big screen. X-Men Days of Future Past, some of the original cast return. Transformers Age of Extinction, the sort of soft reboot of the Transformers series. And Maleficent is also in contention, surprisingly. Angelina Jolie doing a turn as, Sleeping Beauty, is that it? Who cares? I shouldn't say who cares, because now I'm going to have to argue for this film's importance, probably. Okay, box office-wise, Age of Extinction is massive. 1.1 billion, so it's top of the group here. I've already put through the third Transformers movie, and I really don't like that. So please don't make this film go through. Guardians of the Galaxy 772 million, Maleficent 758 million, Days of Future Past 746 million, and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes 710 million. A lot of those are quite close to each other. It's very close there after you get out of the box office of number 1. So as we call them out in order, that's the order they come in. Number 1 to Age of Extinction, number 5 to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. The cost of these movies. Most expensive one here is Guardians of the Galaxy with 232.3 million. It actually went over budget, but thankfully it was a success. After that, 210 million. Age of Extinction is the second most expensive film there. Days of Future Past, just underneath it, 5 million less, 205 million. That'll get number 3. Maleficent, 180 million. That'll be number 4. And Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, 170 million. That'll get number 5. So, when we get into originality, Age of Extinction, third sequel to a Transformers movie and a cartoon. It's also a reboot. You could possibly market that as well. Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a comic. It's an obscure comic though, so that'll be helped. Maleficent is a spin-off of Sleeping Beauty. Days of Future Past is a comic, and it's also a sequel. I mean, it's like 6, 7 sequel. I don't know. I'm not even going to bother counting it. 6 sequel, I think. Then we have a reboot / sequel to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Again, that is going to hurt it because it is a sequel to a reboot. There you go. So when it comes to originality, I'm going to give number 1 to Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a comic, but it's a very obscure comic. It's based on something, and even most of the people that read comics were like, Guardians? Who? So that's going to help it there. Originality, aside from that, I'm going to have to give it to... I'm going to give it to Maleficent because it's just a spin-off of a movie, and it's also, a film from a long time ago, so it just about gets that there. Also on originality, the next one for number 3, I'll give it to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes because it's a sequel to a reboot, but it's kind of going its own way now. Now that it's established, it's not seen as just a reboot. It's just seen as a new series, so I'll give it to 3, even though I'm questioning myself doing that. Days of Future Past, so far down the sequel line, I'll give it a 4. Transformers Age of Extinction, third sequel, it's based on a cartoon. Same director, doesn't come off as very original, giving it a 5. I mean, I think maybe I'm like subconsciously just like Transformers can't go through again. Cultural impact and acclaim. I mean, there's only one film here that's going to get the top score. It's without a doubt Guardians of the Galaxy. 2 Oscar nominations, a chart-topping soundtrack that went platinum in lots of countries, popularized a lot of older songs, inspired so many imitators, both for the film and its soundtrack. It made a household name of some of these characters despite them being very, very obscure. Proved Chris Pratt is a star in Hollywood. That's something that's also going to affect next year's film when we get to Jurassic World. It was just a massive cultural phenomenon that everyone was talking about. Even people that like wouldn't normally watch these type of films went to see this film and loved it. So that's got cultural impact there, number 1, and of course the critical score, both in the 90s from audiences and critics. We all agree, we all love this film. That gets a number 1. When it comes after that, it's what's the cultural impact of the rest of them? I'm going to say number 2 is going to Days of Future Past. It's kind of seen by a lot of people as like the last good straight up X-Men film. Obviously Logan's good, Deadpool's good, but this just being the X-Men team, this is kind of seen as the last hurrah where they were really good films. It's often considered the best of the series. Even it got 1 Oscar nomination. It's best known for bringing the original cast back, even if they never really did that again and capitalize it on or anything. We all kind of were hoping that they would kind of get another X-Men film out of them, but they never did. So yeah, the cultural impact for that is going to be high because a lot of people were talking about it. Normally I'd have to drag people to see an X-Men film. They actually wanted to see this, so I think that says something as well. Number 2 is going to go to X-Men. Number 3, cultural impact, is probably going to have to go... Reluctantly, I'll have to give it to Transformers because it is remembered for being kind of an exorbitant amount of product placement and catering to the Chinese market. It introduces the Dinobots. People kind of remember that, even though they're barely in the film. A lot of people kind of gave up on the franchise after this film, but this was kind of a thing. There was people talking about it, and it is remembered, even if it's for bad reasons. Maleficent, I mean, aside from maybe making the character relevant again, it's not really remembered significantly, except for maybe being an example of humanizing the villain, which people don't really like. 1 Oscar nomination for this one. And then we have Dawn of Planet of the Apes. 1 Oscar nomination. It made the Apes franchise feel a bit relevant again, but it built on the modest base of it. I mean, the cultural impact will probably be the special effects, possibly. So that's kind of the big hurrah there. Number 1 is going to Guardians, of course. Number 2 is going to Days of Future Past. Number 3 is going to Transformers. Number 4 I'll give to Apes, just based on the fact that Maleficent didn't have much cultural impact. Franchise, Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, they took an obscure one and it launched a sequel and another sequel to come. It launched right at Disneyland. Plenty of album and merch sales. Undoubtedly, number 1 is going to that. We never got another team for an X-Men film again. A lot of the older cast were kind of replaced by new casts anyway. This makes this one kind of feel self-contained. But the series does go on, and it was on a high note after this, so I'll give that number 2. Number 3 I'm going to give to Planet of the Apes, because it did inspire a sequel, and the sequel did decently. We're losing a bit of points in some of the other one, okay? Because all of the sequels that these ones inspired did worse. Because Maleficent gets a sequel, doesn't do as good as this one. Transformers gets a sequel, but I think the reason... I'm going to give Transformers a number 5 here. I'm going to give the worst score for franchise, and here's why. This killed interest in the franchise. It was a less success. It led to a less successful sequel and a less successful spin-off, and I think that is really because this film sucked, and a lot of people didn't like it. And I think that was really the turning point on the franchise, and as a result, I think it damaged the franchise, and because of that, I'm giving the franchise score a 5. Number 3, I'll give to War of the Planet of the Apes, because I do think they've had a tougher battle there. Number 4, I'll give to Maleficent. Again, it's a Disney film with Angelina Jolie. It should have done well, and it did inspire a sequel, but I will give it to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes because I think it had a tougher road ahead of it. Let's look at these scores. I'm not entirely sure where this is going to go. I know Guardians of the Galaxy is likely to get through, but I don't know what else. Please not another Transformers film. Whoa, okay. Oh god, I was sweating it there. I actually thought for a second Transformers was going through again. Number 1 in this group, no surprise, Guardians of the Galaxy with, I believe, without going back and checking, this is easily the lowest score we've had so far. A score of 6. Guardians of the Galaxy is going through to the round of 32 for the best blockbuster. Number 2, going through, but it has to fight for it, is X-Men Days of Future Past. I think this might be the only X-Men film that's gone through so far. And it's one of the best X-Men films, so... yeah, it just about beat Transformers. I'm really disappointed that bottom of the group is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes because I love that film. But there you go. It just didn't have the success to move on. Maybe I can save it. when I come back, I'll have to decide. There's a few films I might want to save. I've got one save left, but we'll see how that goes next week. But from this round of 2014, number 1 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 2, X-Men Days of Future Past. Come back next week and we look at the final 5 years, the final 5 groups of the Summer Blockbuster Showdown.
All trivia may be useless, but no trivia is more useless than useless IMDb trivia. That's a piece of trivia too.
I'm looking at the most controversial save so far, and it wasn't an actual save, but to put into second place against Iron Man 3 is Man of Steel, a film many people hate, a film some people love, and a film I think is, it's grand. So, the reason I bring up that it's divisive is because I get the feeling that this trivia section is going to be a little bit of a shit show. But we will see. 167 bits of trivia. We're going to go down to the very bottom and see what they have, because the useless stuff's normally at the bottom. And we won't look at spoilers. God, I won't want to spoil Man of Steel. I mean, it's been out like 7 years, but Okay, let's have a look here. Anything that's jumping out? Heaven. Oh my god, this is like someone who was like, is this trivia? And then they were like, wait, but maybe it's just a coincidence. So, Henry Cavill has a dog named Cal in real life. And then it just says, in brackets, for Kal-El? Question mark. It's like they're trying to connect the dots, but they're not entirely sure, and they couldn't find confirmation. Oh, bless them. Henry Cavill was born the same year as the release of Superman 3. Someone really did a deep dive on his Instagram and found all this weird trivia. And they're like, I don't know is it trivia. But certainly, let's make as many connections because he's Superman. He has to have Superman present in all of his life. Wow. Anyway, apparently he has a dog named Cal. Maybe for Kal-El. We don't know. One person found that interesting. Probably the person that submitted it found it pretty interesting. No one else has. I really do need to register an account so I can be like, uninteresting! Interesting! I can decide how useless this useless IMDb trivia is. But regardless, that's where we're going to leave it this week. Come back next week where we are going to look at the last qualifying round of the Summer Blockbuster Showdown. It's going to be pretty exciting because I can still save one film and we're going to narrow it down. We're getting there, folks. It's taken a while, but we're getting there. Regardless whether you're listening to this, watching this, thank you for doing so. Please like, subscribe, and all that good shit. And remember, I can't spell cult without you.
This is a broadcast from the Pop Cult Pod.